So a little bit of history. This is 2009. We were looking at the teaching evaluations of one of our large classes with around 2,200 students. It's on business systems. Based on the evaluations, it was considered the worst course. And at that point in time, it was the worst course in the worst department, in the worst faculty, at the University of Auckland. I won't say anything more than that. So it was a pretty dire situation. And you know the question, overall I was satisfied with the quality of this course. Many of you may have problems with that question, but at the same time, that's our evaluation. And there was a stage, these are averaged values across 5 offerings. There was a stage when it went down to 28%. That means 72% hated the course. And from that, a team of us brought it out to the mid-80s now, where it sits, and now and then we experiment, and when we experiment, it goes down a bit, but that's okay. We are happy with it, but that's what has happened, and we also focus on the details of the questions in terms of structure and so on, and as you can see across the years, we've been slowly pulling it across each of those measures, and in 2015 semester 2, most of them, no, all of them are green. And this resulted in a few awards, both at the faculty level and at the university level. And this has been done by a team of us. This couldn't have happened without the team. Andrew, Anson, Gabriel, Kushbu, Ron, and so on. Many challenges, and thankfully, most of you have addressed those challenges. And I think the first challenge is ourselves. And I think in one sense, Paul addressed it by talking about the tensions that academics live in terms of research and teaching and so on and so forth. And our students are also changing. You know, they may read 10,000 blogs in a year, but they won't read one textbook, right? So all of us know that. And the paradigms are still stuck in 2000 BC, as Tessa mentioned, right? It's still stand and deliver, very transmissive oriented. And students and staff, we don't have time. We don't have time to do stuff. We don't have time to invent, innovate. And our processes, both learning, teaching, and academic processes are really screwed up. Academic processes. And I mean the official academic processes, okay? And we have technology hitting us all the time, especially in the IS field. We need to keep up with the technology to deliver what is the latest and the best. Unlike some things like if you're teaching maybe history or maybe statistics. Sorry, Laszlo. You could teach statistics in a reasonably good manner with reasonably old material. And we also have pressures on funding. I think Laszlo mentioned this, right? You start off with a class of 3 and then it went up to 300 and you still have the same funding. And how do you manage with this kind of a situation? Davidson Goldberg suggests our institutions of learning have changed far more slowly than the modes of inventive, collaborative, participative learning offered by the internet and array of whatever. So the agenda is going to be around vision and philosophy that we had when we began this journey in mid-2009 to bring about a change. And what was our strategy? What were the processes? What is the content that we put together? How did we go about designing and executing it? And how we adopted the Kaizen principle so that on an ongoing basis we are kind of correcting ourselves and improving ourselves. So a little bit on vision and philosophy. We adopted the business school's vision where tomorrow's leaders engage today. This is not just an empty saying for us. We tell the students, we want to treat you like CEOs, enterprise designers, not operators pressing a key. And our whole assignment, everything that we do, stems from this idea that these are the leaders of tomorrow. We don't teach leaders how to click here, click there. We go about it from a different angle. We start from vision and strategy to processes and systems. Prior to this, it was about systems and a divide and conquer rule. Systems are made up of data, process, blah, 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 teach data, teach process. That was the previous approach. Whereas now we completely flipped it and said, no, if you're going to be leaders, you need to know why you're using a particular system, the vision, what was the strategy that drove it, and so on. The second one is, again, the mission of the business school, building a bridge to a better world. And this is, again, not an empty thing. We base it on UN's goals, sustainability goals, and so on. And it is embedded deeply in the assignment that we have, which Andrew will be talking about. And we want it to be the best, not the worst, as you saw in the earlier one. The best course in our department, in the faculty, and in the university, and the best information systems course in the world. So that was our vision. Our philosophy was driven by Plutarch, who suggests that the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be ignited. And we wanted to fire up our students. We adopted a number of strategies. I'm just going to kind of give you some words. I'm not going to go in depth into the words. Each of those words we could discuss for an hour or more. So I'll just leave it to you to kind of mull over it and think about it. Love and care for our students. Engaging with them through YouTube and other mechanisms, through questions that are given ahead of time to the class, and then they come to class and we discuss that. Captivate them through games, through technologies that will take them out of this world. Connect with them, build rapport and trust. Reward them extrinsically through things like the Imagine Cup, and intrinsically within the class through when they give a right answer. I used to give a squeegee ball, throw it at them, and cultivate them. And cultivate them. In a class of 600, it's very difficult. How do you cultivate? I try to ask the students' names, especially the ones who answer the question. And then the next class, I try to call them by their name. Sometimes, not sometimes, most times I get it wrong, but that's okay. That provides a little bit of entertainment. At the same time, we demand a lot from the students. The students working in a group are asked to imagine a world where technology helps solve the toughest problems facing us today. And students are free to identify any problem under the sun and provide unique technology-mediated solutions. Passion. We need passion from the side of the teacher, but we also want to ignite passion from the student. Provide a cohesive structure to the course. And when you look at our roadmap, there's a higher level roadmap, which suggests that businesses can be supported through systems and technology to bring about that transformation at a very high level. But then we detail what is business. We have a sequence. This is the lecture sequence, as well as the sequence in which the assignment questions are asked. It is the same sequence in which the test is asked, the exam is asked. So this particular roadmap is the roadmap that we iterate through multiple mechanisms. Iteration is another big philosophy which underlines what we do. We teach them, we tutor them, we test them, we evaluate them using this particular roadmap. At least there are 100 versions of this roadmap, which we have from 2009. We have versions of these roadmaps. Clarity. That's the reason for 100 versions. We try to be as clear as possible. And this is where Paul's point about sometimes when you make things easy when you make it easy for the student to get, it actually makes things easy for yourself as well. So how can you provide something where they can get at it very clearly and quickly? Traceability, when you look at the roadmap, there is a logic to the flow of the roadmap. It's not an empty roadmap. It's not just divide and conquer. I'm going to teach you A, B, C, D. They are linked up together in a logical manner where people can follow and trace. Integration, alignment and connections within the course, but because it's a first-year course, we also make connections with every other course that the department offers. This particular module, if you want to study further, these are the other things that you need. So alignment and connections are made to other things, and also including marketing with CRM and so on. Absolutely thorough planning of the course. We provide variety, interaction, lots of activities, stories, real and relevant cases, provide a pinch of humor, and active learning through the cases that I mentioned. So they read about it, think about it. When they come to class, we give them a few, we interweave the class with a few of these exercises, around 3 per class, where we ask them to pair together with a neighbor, think about it, and then share the results of that. Obviously, in a class of 600, everybody won't share, which is good. Only a few share, but that is sufficient. Personalize, especially in terms of giving feedback to them. Try to be fair. Provide them with autonomy. How do you provide autonomy in a class like this? And that is where the fact that we tell them you can select any problem under the sun and provide any technology-mediated solution, that's where the autonomy and thinking independently is built up. We try to make it enjoyable, provide logic, and help them to be critical about it. Process, we follow Bloom's good old taxonomy of learning in action, where we consider knowledge transmission is at the lowest level. And beyond that, we want them to comprehend, be able to apply, analyze, synthesize, and so on. And these are slides that we actually shared with them in class, in the first class, saying, hey guys, this is the way we expect you to gather knowledge. This is the way we expect you to comprehend, apply, reinforce, analyze, synthesize, evaluate, critique, and provide feedback. And the sequence in which we do help them to get to the stage is through readings, lectures, tutorials, self-learning tutorials, Excel tutorials, code avengers, assignment, test, and finally the exam. Davidson and Goldberg talked about 10 pillars of learning, and in some ways that's our gold standard that we want to go towards. We are not there as yet, but we try to adopt as many of those principles as possible in the way we design our courses. Those are some of the modalities that we use. Not going to go in depth into them, but these will be available online. And we consider each lecture to be a performance that needs to be choreographed, orchestrated down to the T. Because it's a large class, you can't afford to make mistakes, and there are multiple people offering it. So it has to be a very well designed, and the lecturers need to be prepared. In terms of content, we went and looked at the contents, and we found that in terms of knowledge of disciplines, people seem to do well. In terms of providing them skills, not so well. In terms of integrative themes, not at all. And it was this integrative theme that we wanted our course to reflect. We looked at some studies on what CIOs in the world consider to be the top 10 business and technology priorities, and we put together those priorities into a course structure that made sense. And in the early stages, we used an existing textbook, but then last year we created our own custom textbook that fulfilled the roadmap that we had come up with. That's a detailed roadmap that I showed. The design and execution team, Kushbu, Gabriel, Andrew, Ron, Anson, and myself, but there were many others who helped us along the way. And we have a principle of Kaizen, continuous improvement, where we keep the core stable, but we keep innovating around the edges. We try not to deviate or waver from where we want to go. Sometimes we get a bad evaluation from one student, but we say, hey, that's 1 out of 2,200. Keep that in mind. If you think that's okay, continue with that. Incessantly innovate, and we have a wonderful development team, whole bunch of names there, a whole bunch of technologies that we have tried and are trying. And that's our whole philosophy of the course in a nutshell. And I want to leave you, with a teacher called Jaime Escalante, mathematics teacher. There was a movie made about him, Stand and Deliver. And I think this word desire, it's not just about invoking desire from the students, but also us teachers having the desire to deliver the goods, stand and deliver. With that, I will leave you and let Andrew take over.
You see, I'm very used to following David. Every semester, he actually does this for our students. And you know, every time he says, I'll give you 15 minutes, 15 minutes. All right, so we had this vision, and I wanted to show one aspect in a bit more detail about how we go through things, and more importantly, I think, what the students get out of it. And so, as David mentioned, we had our purpose, building a bridge to a better world. We adapted that into our vision, and it went through into our roadmap. Now, for our project, and we had to rename our assignment to a project because of Canvas, we took that as the theme. Imagine a world where technology helps solve the toughest problems facing us today. And one of my other hats in our department is my head of department tasked me to win the Imagine Cup, which is Microsoft's student technology competition. And so, kill two birds with one stone. I thought, well, if I throw 1,000 students at coming up with great ideas, you know, it's a win-win. And pleased to say that we've been in the worldwide finals every year since we started doing this. And some of our stage 1 students have actually gone on to the New Zealand finals and so forth. And I'll talk a bit more about that, actually. We've also tightly linked these into the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So as part of their assignment, the students actually have to say, here's my problem, and this is how it links into sustainable development. So we've divided our assignment into two sort of artifacts that they have to hand in. First one is they have to come up with an idea. And this is fantastic because it gives them a lot of creativity, and it also allows them to develop a passion or take something that they're passionate about and work on it as a university assignment. So find a problem in the world, think about how you can use technology to solve it. And we've got a lot of crap ideas and solutions. But we've also got some really, really brilliant ones, right? So that's group-based because the key thing is they actually find it quite hard to think of these ideas because, you know, if I sit down and think, oh, can I come up with a great award-winning idea right now? No, I can't. But my students can. For the second part of the assignment, they have to take that idea and then how would they make it a reality? You know, so build up a business case, and that's a 1,600-word written piece of work. And for many years, we were the only stage 1 course that actually required writing, which was quite amusing. So for us, seeing student grades is one measure of success, but reality is we wanted to see could they take it further. So what we found is we encourage our students to enter the Imagine Cup and also to enter Spark, or Velocity as it's now called. And our students have gone on, taken their ideas and their assignments, modified them slightly, and won prizes. And for me and for David and the rest of the team, that's the real measure of success. They are making a difference. They're taking these ideas and they're taking them forward. I'm not going to go into all the technologies we use. We'll just say one thing. The technology should not get in the way. When we choose technology, it's to help the learning. It's not because we think it's cool or you know, ooh, this is going to be fun. Although I'm always tempted. But you know, the key thing is we don't want to get in the way of their learning. Everything that we do, we try and design it around the principle of it should be almost invisible to the students. You know, it's there to scaffold them. And I've got a lot of people on my team who say, Andrew, we can't do that because you know, it's cool, doesn't mean we should use it. And that's good, I think. So we've got lots of different technology. The one thing I did want to show you, and I'm going to run a little over into question time, I actually wanted to show you one of the student videos that they created. It's 3 minutes, so bear with me. These are people who haven't been taught how to create videos or anything. We leave it totally up to them how to do it. You know, they've got to teach themselves, but I'm quite proud of them.
Take a look at your hands. On each square inch of your skin, there are about 10,000 bacteria. Your phone. Each square inch contains roughly 25,000 bacteria. What's worse is public bathrooms have about 2 million bacteria each square inch.
Harmful diseases and infections are being spread all around the world, causing millions of deaths each year. Most of these infections are spread by pathogens, such as enteroviruses, which cause hand-foot-mouth disease, noroviruses, which cause diarrhea, and the influenza virus, which placed third in the world's deadliest diseases. What do they all have in common? They are all spread through hand contact because people don't wash their hands properly.
Hand washing is vital in preventing the spread of infection and is key in maintaining good hygiene. Researchers found that a whopping 95% of people didn't wash their hands properly, and that 1.7 billion men and 77 million women don't use soap.
Researchers estimate that if everyone routinely washed their hands, 1 million deaths a year could be prevented. Washing hands with soap and water could reduce diarrheal disease-associated deaths by up to 50% and can reduce the risk of respiratory infections by 16%.
If proper hand washing is encouraged throughout the world, the UN Sustainable Goal of the world's health and population can be significantly improved. But how does improper hand washing link to spreading disease?
The answer is found in the problem tree. People don't wash their hands properly, which is the core problem of spreading disease. This is caused by the lack of knowledge on proper hand washing, not using soap, wrong water temperature, and time taken to wash hands. Symptoms of diseases transmitted through improper hand washing include vomiting, fevers, diarrhea, pneumonia, and can even result in death.
So what is proper hand washing? World Health Organization says that all it requires is soap and motivation. Washing hands with soap and water removes germs through scrubbing and a generous water flow. The CFP recommended hand washing water at 40 degrees Celsius, the optimal temperature for the efficiency of soaps. 20 seconds is also the recommended duration.
We've combined all three requirements for proper hand washing into one system, the Hygiene 20 Seconds, H20. All you have to do is attach the nozzle onto any tap, turn it on and wash your hands. No other system can solve all three causes in one convenient system.
How does it work? When you turn on the tap, the water goes through the attachment and into the system where the water is heated and the soap is added. Then the soapy water goes back through the pipe and the timer starts. Once the timer hits 10 seconds, soap is no longer added and pure warm water flows through to rinse off the bubbles.
If H20 is installed in every bathroom everywhere, we can measure its effectiveness by analysing the improvement and well-being of the population, calculating the percentage reduction in deaths due to diseases responsible. And if everyone uses the H20, each square inch of your hands, phones and public bathrooms will be much cleaner and safer.
Who wants to touch my phone? You see, and to me, that's win-win-win all the way. They were obviously having fun doing it. They learnt a lot. They demonstrated all the stuff that we wanted them to, and that's great. I think for us, I love these guys. Okay, questions. David, come back.
Actually, the whole team is here. That was the purpose, so you can ask us and
we'll point at people randomly to answer.
Someone said earlier that students are really strategic and risk averse, so they want to plot how much time they need to sacrifice for assignments and the minimum amount of work required for them. So you've got a bunch of students that have put together something really slick. How long did they spend on it, and how long were they expected to spend on such an assignment?
Let me take that one. Yep, I actually asked them. They spent a weekend basically on campus doing it. They left it to the last minute, actually. Well, actually, that's unfair. They did it all over a weekend, but it was due the following Friday. And I would say most students spend about 10 hours or so on it at least. But having said that, it's a fairly chunky assignment. It is worth 10% of their final grade. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got lots of assessments, so
I think the issue here is we have always been, and every course that we have taught, we have been accused of demanding too much from the student. But we don't mind demanding too much from the student when we provide a good structure. So I think providing the structure allows us to demand more, because the students are not wasting the time finding where the material is, what to do, and so on and so forth. So I think within a good structure where there is clarity, then you can demand.
yeah, and one of the points I had in my slide that I was going to talk about is our tutorials are actually structured in such a way that they actually walk through how to structure their assignments and stuff in there.
So I was curious about also in the leadership aspect that you talked about earlier, and what you're learning about making that resonate with young people. So, you know, coming in as a first year and getting the thing about being a CEO, CIO, and what you're learning about that gap and the translation required in terms of the language and how you talk about that. Can you speak to that issue?
Yeah, this is actually explicitly mentioned in class. So there is a particular slide where we provide something by Forrester, who talks about traditionally business schools have taught in silos, and they don't teach integratively or holistically, and further goes on to talk about how traditionally most business schools also train operators and not designers. Enterprise designers is the word that he uses. So we kind of walk them through the idea that the whole course, in terms of the roadmap, is from the perspective of an enterprise designer. So when we ask them to come up with a product or a service, that's not a thing that an operator will do. It's only a CEO who thinks about what should be the new product that I should create or the new service that I need to offer. So from the very essence of the course, the students start thinking like CEOs. So,
Yeah, no, I think you nailed that one. Well done.
I really like your practice and the ideas behind. And also, I really like the student project. I'm just wondering how much time do you need to spend on marketing them?
I can take that one. We actually used to, before we switched over to video, we used to get them to write all this out. And that was really boring for the students, in a sense, because it's such a creative way of doing things via video instead. And that took us a lot of time to mark, because we had to read, it was, I don't know, probably about 1,000 words we made it, because we were trying to match up to the Spark competition at the time, $1,000 for 1,000 words. And it just took too long. It was interesting reading their ideas, but they didn't really come to life. So I think it was beginning of 2015, we changed to the video, or maybe 2014 sometime, we changed over to the video format. And as part of that, we designed it so that students would have to show their videos in class. So in their tutorial groups, they actually play the video. Everybody has a chance to give them feedback, because they don't actually submit the video, they submit a website they've created. And as part of that, it has a feedback form built in. So the students are getting feedback from all of their peers, as well as their markers sitting there watching it at the same time. So the markers are doing a pre-mark, if you like, while they're watching all of them at the same time. And then they go back afterwards, moderate, and get the marks out. And that's one of the things we believe in 110 is we try and get fast feedback to them as well. So they watch it, they get the feedback pretty much same week. Yep.
So this is a group assignment?
Yes.
And the first response to a group assignment from students is, I hate group assignments.
Yes, it is.
How do they respond to this?
They hate group assignments. Generally speaking, right? I think they love group assignments where it's having to come up with ideas, right? Because we tried doing it individually, and I spent so much time with students coming in, I can't think of an idea, and you know. When we first started, we weren't very good at doing group assignments, but I think we structured our tutorials and stuff. We flipped our tutorials, we took all the content out, and now they do activities in their groups to help them bond and things like that. And now I very rarely get any queries about groups. You know, there'll always be one or two groups where, you know, they need a divorce. The marriage has gone horribly, horribly wrong, right? But we use technology to help us mediate those as well. Yeah. Chun?
I think the information industry is growing very fast. And how do you actually let the potential leaders in the future, like actually on the top of the growing this part? So when they finish school, when they finish university, they are in the outside of the world. I think they are still on the top of industry.
I think one of the ways we try and deal with that is we try and instill a love of lifelong learning in them. That way, even if technology changes and industries changes, you know, you go out and you carry on learning. I think we're out of time. Yep.